Welcome, Philadelphia, to the festival. We have with us two people who made matzo balls for the revolution, Ira Kerem and Rabbi David Schneyer, coming in, Ira from Israel, David, I believe, from DC area. I'm Elliot Ratzman from Earlham College, also a longtime friend of the festival, and I'm here to talk with him about this wonderful documentary, which you just saw. We made matzo balls for the revolution. So I have a lot of questions. The first question, obviously, Ira, maybe you want to take this, is how did this film come to get made?
Well, we started the restaurant in 1975, and it lasted 3.5 years as a real collective and another half year under someone's management. They lost $30,000 and it closed. And occasionally, especially when I get to Washington, I try to organize a reunion. And 5 years ago, we had a reunion, and someone raised the idea of we should make a film. We should document what we did. And I thought this was a crazy idea, because who would be interested in seeing something that happened over 40 years ago, except for our friends and our family? No one else would care. But it turned out that all of us stayed somehow trying to change the world. All of us today are still involved in somehow trying to make society better. And we spoke about some of our adult children that are also involved in it. And it was an amazing, I think for me, I said, yeah, this story should be told. And so we made the film. We hired a director, and we gave her like a free hand to do however she wanted. And yeah, she made, I think, a pretty good film. It's worth seeing.
Well, this is a little known episode, I think, outside of Washington, D.C. Jewish history. Are all those documents that we saw in the film, are they in somebody's archive somewhere? Where can researchers go to find out more about the kosher kitchen?
Well, on our web, we have a website, and on the website are I believe 14 interviews. We were each interviewed in depth for this film, and it's there. But there are articles that have been written about us also on our website. Some of them are there, and we'll have to post some more. But yeah, we don't have the day. That's what David has been trying to do for a long time. He really wants this to be in universities, in the Jewish studies departments, and he's the one to answer this question.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. We have a fair amount of archival material in boxes, and what to do with it is really the next step. There are Jewish historical societies and also universities, Judaic studies departments that I think would really enjoy having access to this information. It represents a period in our lives, that was transformative for all of us, in a transformative time in American history and around the world. So I'm hoping that we'll find the time to make that happen in the future.
Well, since we're here speaking in the Philadelphia area, we should say that the Swarthmore Peace Archives, I'm sure, would be happy to take your materials, and also Temple University is very strong on Jewish history. So I'm going to call shotgun for the Philadelphia schools if you guys decide to archive.
We are mentioned in the University of Pennsylvania's archives, Jewish archives, on the beginnings of the Chavurah movement. Some of us who were very, very deeply connected with the kosher kitchen make mention of the kosher kitchen, and that in those interviews that are archived at the University of Pennsylvania.
Now, I love this project of the cooperative restaurant. Where I went to school, Athens, Ohio, and still ongoing now 30 years, cooperative restaurant Casa Nueva. They seem to be running like clockwork. Some of the images from the film indicate that things were a lot more bumpy, that there were conflicts and tensions, and eventually, I guess, some sort of financial holes. Conservative rabbis telling you not to have kind of alternative services. It's unbelievable now. So I wanted to ask about this. One of many things I want to ask you about. these criticism sessions, which usually leaves people traumatized after such an experience. But it sounded like everybody was lovely. And the Musar movement also adapted some of that communist criticism, self-criticism culture in some forms of the Musar movement. So let me ask you about that. Were you all in therapy for decades after that?
Go to it, Ira.
I think most of us were able to overcome that. For me, it was the best working environment I've ever been in, really. We didn't have a manager. We didn't have anyone telling us what to do. We made decisions together. And we learned together from our mistakes. And we'd sit down after dinner, and we would go through what happened during that day, how people who were waiters, how people who were cooks, how everyone was trying to build a team and how to do it best. And occasionally it got pretty heavy for some people. It was a little bit traumatic, at least for one person that I could think of. But I think most of us really learned how to do it. And I said that we should do it for the film. We should do a session for the film, criticism, self-criticism, to give people an idea. And David was the one who said, no, we shouldn't do it. So maybe it's a little traumatic for him as well. But, you try to be honest, you try to say what you did. You try to focus on yourself first. You say, I messed up. I didn't do something that I should.
Yeah. There was much laughter. And there were tears, but those meetings brought us incredibly close together, to such an extent that, we knew each other so deeply. It really added to, well, the fact that we're still so close to this very day has something to do with, with those meetings, with, the way we did it. I just wanted to say that.
The film also mentioned that you brought a number of speakers, but you didn't mention which speakers were brought. I saw Leo Marx, I think, on one flyer. Do you all remember some memorable moments? Because I tell you, the conservative movement complaining about an alternative service, today the question would be over what speaker you're bringing and are they kosher on various issues.
And speakers on a lot of different subjects. I can't remember the specific speakers, but on subjects like Jewish feminism, Jewish funeral practices, we supported the United Farm Workers boycott on lettuce and grapes, which we felt was directly linked to being a kosher restaurant, and that we didn't want to take advantage of oppressed labor, and we gave them quite, well, I don't know how often, but we gave them some kind of stage that they could speak about it. And we even did a fundraiser. I think David's band did a fundraiser for them. We had, I believe Arthur Waskow actually did come, although it was a big controversy for us. And he came and spoke because he is a controversial figure. And he was in the Washington area. And we thought we should get the backing of the establishment before we invited him. Well, we wanted to neutralize it. And our contacts with the Federation was, you might as well invite the PLO to come and speak. They were really against giving any kind of forum for Arthur Waskow. That was the most divided that we were, because we're business. We needed people to come and buy dinner and eat with us. And we were afraid that especially there was a substantial Orthodox community who are usually more conservative in their views, and other people who would say, oh no, how dare you do this? That was pretty controversial. And we did some other things. We tried to get funding. We started it without funding from anyone, really. Individuals gave us money, some synagogues gave us money, but the establishment didn't give us any money. They're saying, kosher food, was not on their agenda then. And we, after 9 months, we saw that we were doing really good work. And a lot of people who are not affiliated would call us all the time and ask for, what time does Shabbat begin? What time, where can I go to a Jewish library? Lots of questions. So we thought, since we're answering the phone anyway, maybe we could have some volunteers get a little bit of training and a phone line, and we will give information like that. We'll be the information line for the Jewish community. And we only asked $5,000 for a year to run this program. And of course, we were told at a meeting of one of the committees of the board of the federation, one person got up and said, "Why are we listening to this? You guys are supposed to run a kosher restaurant. We don't support things like this from a group like you." And the staff person from the federation who worked with us is that, "Wait, these are young people. This is the future of the community." And he says, "We don't have to listen to you either." So today I'm told that if we came to any federation anywhere and we said, "Here, we're going to do a program that just cover our expenses," no one's going to get a salary. Well, maybe someone's going to get a salary, but it's dirt cheap to organize this. That every federation would jump on it and say, "Yeah, we want." But David could talk a little bit more about the services that we organize, because that's pretty interesting.
Before going into the services, we became an alternative cultural center, for a large number of Jews, many young Jews in the Washington area. We held classes there. There are teenagers that came to classes. I taught a class on the philosophies and teachings of Martin Buber. We had Israeli folk dancing there. We ran a coffee house on most Saturday nights and featuring different kinds of Jewish and folk music, a night devoted to Yiddish, a night devoted to Israeli folk music, to Ladino folk music, and to contemporary folk songs. And we even featured one of a collective member played sitar, so we had sitar music, Jewish raga, if you wish, and we also offered tours to kids going to schools. These are synagogue schools, to come and visit with us and learn about what is kosher and how how the kosher kitchen operated. So we did all that. And Ira didn't mention that we also received a grant to do Meals on Wheels, kosher Meals on Wheels to elderly shut-ins. And this was a significant social service in the community that we did, and it meant so much to us to also be engaged with that population. So met various needs. When we did services one Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we got into so much trouble, for having services open to whoever. It was mostly young people, in their 20s that came, and we met that kind of need, and of course got some negative feedback from the establishment.
The cadre of people who initiated this, did they grow up in experiences of Jewish cooperative living, whether it was the Coops or the various cooperatives of the different Jewish groups in New York, or the kind of farm school movements and pre-Zionist movements? Did any of you have any experience in the long history of Jewish DIY, do-it-yourself?
Well, a number of us worked in kibbutzim in Israel, and that's, to some degree, you don't always feel it when you're a volunteer working there, but to some degree, that's certainly a collective lifestyle. You eat together, you share a lot of things. Some people in university also were very active in some of their, like Michael Marcus, he lived in a group, and they were very collective and cooperative. We were in connection with a lot of other collectives. In Washington, there was something called the Food Federation, and there were 7 nonprofit organizations. There was one other restaurant which failed about a year into it. There were several local food co-ops. There were people who sold spices and soap and all different kinds of things, and they were part of this federation. We were the only ones who called ourselves anti-profit because we wanted to make a statement, a very strong statement. And not everybody in our Jewish community was really excited about going to an anti-profit restaurant. There were a lot of people who own businesses, from small businesses to big businesses, and I think that name offended some people, but we thought it was really important to say.
I would like to add to what Ira said about, many of us grew up in Habonim, several members of the collective, the Socialist Zionist Youth Movement. And a number of us, in addition to Ira, also worked on kibbutzim. The year before I joined the collective, I lived and worked on a kibbutz in the Emek in Israel. So I had that experience, and some of us come from, socialist and communist families, going back a generation or two, and that impacted, some of us. It certainly impacted me, having that awareness, from my youth. But I also had a great awareness of the Hebrew prophets, and how strongly they fought against injustice. And I think it was the Hebrew prophets for me personally, growing up, and learning first from my teachers, but also from on my own, that moved me in a certain direction, more so than Marx and Lenin and so that I just wanted to to share that with you, because the prophets, the prophetic tradition, had also deep meaning to some of us.
You were pro-profit, but anti-profit.
Right, very good, Elliot. That's very good.
Now, all this wonderful stuff that you did today, enviable. Every Jewish federation in the country should watch this documentary just to get some ideas. And there have been funded little startup efforts. But my question is, it sounded like it took a lot out of all of you. Did you have time to do anything else in the community, or did this take away from the activism?
Well, as David mentioned, we had a very full program, and we had events all during the week. Every 2 weeks we had a speaker. Every Saturday night we had entertainment. We started off every Thursday night. We had Israeli folk dancing. We had ethnic nights. We'd invite somebody who was a regular customer who came from Romania or came from Argentina or came from Russia, and we'd change our menu and we'd cook according to that. And we quite often had speakers about the Jewish community in those different countries. But we were also involved outside. David especially was very active in the Jewish Folk Arts Society. And it was founded, I was the first director of it. And we organized with some Hillels and with Fabrangen and with other organizations. We organized the first Jewish Folk Arts Festival in Washington. And it's been going on almost yearly since 1976.
We haven't done it recent years, but we held some 18 or so Jewish folk arts festivals over the years. Because part of what the collective was about a movement that had started actually prior to the collective, to bring back Jewish music and arts and literature to that aspect of Jewish civilization, to Jewish life. It was sorely missing, certainly in the Washington D.C. area, and another one of my was Mordechai Kaplan, and I really, as a musician myself, and also someone who deeply loves, I was a Judaic studies major at Rutgers, deeply loves Jewish literature. Some of us felt a need to really make that come alive again in the Washington, D.C. area, and the kitchen was a central part of that, that happening.
I'm tired just hearing about all the things that you all did in such a short period of time. It's really both an inspiration and I'm starting to perspire. But let me ask you, of this particular documentary, what didn't make its way into it that you wish would have showed up in that documentary?
To be honest, we have two versions. We have the short version, it's 39 minutes, is what you will see in Philadelphia. And we have a longer version, which is 72 minutes. And even the longer version had to cut out a lot. In the longer version, there's more about at least two of our adult children. One is David's son, who's very involved in music and involved with a group that has Jews and Arabs who do music together. teenagers, people and young adults. And he talks a little bit about it and what he's doing. We have someone else who's very involved in United for Justice. I know Jews for Urban Justice when I was in Washington. Since then, I haven't been. Jews United for Justice. And we have her speaking to groups in Baltimore. She's in Baltimore, and she's doing great things. She had a lot about water and make sure that the water is clean and good for people in Baltimore. So that got cut out. Some more issues, like we I think belittled the issue about Coca-Cola because it had to be cut. So it's mentioned that we didn't want to serve Coca-Cola, and there was a real ideological issue with us. And we made a good bit of money because the profit on Coca-Cola was really high. But it's, first of all, not healthy. And second of all, it represented a company that is known for it is capitalism, it is imperialism, it's everything that we stood against. How could we be selling Coca-Cola? And one person brought it up, and it was a really serious issue. And we had to bring in money. We had to make some money to keep everyone got $100 a week. We had to pay for the meat and for all the food that we had and we needed. We had to pay for rent. So it's a real issue. So we talked and talked and talked, and we finally came up with a compromise. We also had apple juice. It was apple cider, I believe. We made the price for apple cider 25 cents, and we made Coca-Cola 35 cents. But those are the kinds of compromises that we felt we had to be as a business, and yet to have a message and do the right thing.
Was really the only place in the Washington, D.C. area where the full spectrum of Jews, and often non-Jews too, could come together. We had, Orthodox Jews and very secular Jews, in the same space.
People who weren't Jewish at all came as well.
We had a table called the community table. And Ira, can you see behind me the sign? That is the sign from. You recognize that? So this was hanging from the wall over this large table, where we encouraged people, to come and sit. People maybe came in by themselves or couples to sit and get to know another person.
And it was put in the menu that anyone who sits at this table is willing to talk with anyone else. And it really, people met. There's one couple that got married that I know of. I don't know who else didn't. But there were people, you go to a restaurant, you see people eating alone. It's not, it's a shame. We wanted to create a community, a sense of community. It was important to us.
I just wanted to say that this is needed. One of the great problems in Jewish life today is that people from different streams are not talking to each other. I recently came back from Israel. Ira hosted my wife and I. We were there for our son's wedding. And one thing that was very noticeable, the diversity in the society, and also the tremendous need for people to sit and talk with each other. And between the Haredim and the non-Haredim, between all segments. And the kitchen was a great model for that to happen. We need more models like that, where people can come safely, get to know each other better.
When are we going to see the DVD version with the extra scenes?
Oh, there's much more than that, actually. This was the long version. We tried to get some festivals interested, and we didn't. Not that many said, yeah, we want. So we decided we'll do the short version. And,
before we leave, Elliot, I just really appreciate you're doing this with us. But Ira, can you say something about where you are right now?
Yeah, I was going to do it before the end because I wanted to. Here I am with an apron on, right? I am in, it's called the Food Rescuers in Jerusalem. We're situated in the wholesale fruit and vegetable market. And we save food that's going to be thrown away. There's about 50 warehouses here. The food comes from the kibbutzim and from moshavim, and it's stored here before it's sent out to restaurants, to Machane Yehuda, the big market, street market, and small stores. Everyone gets their fruit and vegetables here. And a lot of places, the warehouses, if it's not so great, it's a little bit old. If the bananas are bent the wrong way, they can't sell it. So they throw it away. And we're here to try to save that food. So we do. We have to go through and sort out a lot of food that will be thrown away, but some that can be saved, and we work on it. And lots of organizations, food kitchens, soup kitchens come, and people in need, both in the ultra-Orthodox, in the East Jerusalem Arab neighborhoods, and normal people as well, people who don't have a lot of income. We help supply them with food. And we also cook. We also do, we help feed our own people who volunteer here. And we also cater. We cater to a lot of organizations. And so we get to cook. So I get to cook in the kitchen, which I feel I'm returned to my roots. And it's great. It's fun. The people are young, they're idealistic. And there's a really good spirit. So I enjoy what I'm doing here. I'm a volunteer, but it's certainly worthwhile. You help save the environment, and you help save people who are in need. Not save them, but help them. It's great.
Fantastic work. Fantastic work.
And so in the back, the pictures here are people. There's some volunteers, but they're mostly people who work in all these different warehouses that we've held programs for them, and help give them food as well, cooked food. So it's a great experience.
Work is admirable, from one card-carrying democratic socialist to the people who live the dream for at least 3.5 years. So thank you so much for being part of our festival. Thank you for the film and for your historic work. We're so glad to know it.
Let us thank the Philadelphia Jewish Film Festival as well for giving us this opportunity to show the film to people. We'd like to get people excited. We'd like to get people, especially young people, all ages, to think that working together, they can make a change, they can make a difference. And that's our message, that you don't have to grow up and lose all your ideals. You can still carry them out. And working together is a way to really accomplish a lot more than perhaps as an individual. So that's our message.